Now, we're going to dedicate the whole of this session to talking about Basilica. So, a bit of again, history for anyone else in the room. We started Basilica because even till today, no one has conquered compute in Bittensor. And even if you do conquer it, compute has many flavors. It's rapidly evolving. So there's still so much we can do. Shoots has given us a glimpse into what a compute, how you can orchestrate compute, but even Shoots can't do everything. And there's many different opportunities. And Liam has done very well in giving us compute rentals that work. So we started off, me a corper, I wasn't very strategic. And sometimes, I just run as fast as I can. But when we started Basilica at first, okay, we like Rust because, it's good for infrastructure and whatnot. And Liam kind of works. So let's start with Liam. Let's copy Liam's architecture and try to build on that. But then, things we weren't willing to do to make Liam type architecture work for us. And also, it took a while to realize that for Liam might be perfect for Liam's goals, but for what we wanted to get to, it was limiting us. So we bit the bullet and we shut it down and we rewrote everything. So today we introduced the world to, I won't call it 2.0 because 1.0 never really took off. So what does the future of Basilica look like? Our position was always beyond compute. It's just the economics of it. For a compute network to make sense on purely economic arbitrage, they would need to be selling 100,000 GPU units, or at least 15,000 a month. That's how much GPUs they have to control. So it is possible in a very long and narrow run, but Bittensor isn't really about that. It's about how do you amplify, because it's not like anyone's going to come and drop $1 billion in CapEx on any subnet right now. So how does scarcity breed innovation? That's everything about Bittensor. We can't do Web 2 by doing Web 2 things. So we need to lean in. One of the things we realized pretty quickly was the incentive mechanisms were pretty perverse. And I understand this, but they get stuck in a local minima because in a compute network, miners don't really do that much. So what do you want your miners to do? You want them to provide compute. But what ends up happening is they're getting really expensive compute and you're just paying for it. And if you sell that thing out, a lot of times you're paying dollars, you're doing token arbitrage. So we found that suboptimal. The first thing we did was we said, okay, you know what? We're going to use market forces to drive down the cost of compute. We're going to make miners find the cheapest compute, or we're going to integrate directly, lower the supply chain to the owners of the compute. So first, Basilica's new incentive mechanism right now. So there's two bits of it we're rolling out, and we need to roll it out soft and slowly. But at a high level, what we will do is we will baseline compute that we can get from neoclouds versus what the miners want to give us. Any miner can set their prices, but from a user's point of view, they can see the different prices. That's stage one. Any subnet that doesn't use miners or that is structurally biased to miners not being able to be used is not a subnet. So if we leave the system like that, it's a market, but I think we will tilt the system towards just centralized compute, and we don't want that. We need to move to the final stage slowly. The second bit would be we transform into an auction. So when a compute bit comes in, miners need to, miners, again, because miners they're lovely, but they're unbelievably conniving, to put it lightly. So what will we do? We will say, okay, this is the baseline price of compute from 10 different providers. You guys need to bid around. So that becomes the ceiling plus the platform's profit margin for how much you can bid for. So that's to incentivize miners to keep bidding. So it acts as a forcing function, forcing miners to supply compute beneath market rates. That's one of the things we want to do. Now, that's not going to roll out today, but today we want to just get the system back up and running and slowly ease miners into this new thing. Now, what else do we have? We need to do collateral contracts because we know miners are going to submit fake bids and run away. or submit 100 bits. So we don't want to do stuff like that. So we expect collateral contract. That's what's changing. So that is, okay, what we're bringing back, infrastructure as a service. You can rent GPUs and you can rent CPUs. Because again, it's just something no one else does. CPUs are probably more AI centric, but for what we want to build our products on, a lot of it's going to be very high volume. The need for a lot of GPU stuff, for a lot of CPU stuff. We'll also reward miners. We'll also onboard miners onto the CPUs. Now, what were we doing before? That we will do better. Now, the second bit, this is what makes it really interesting, is, it gave us time to take a step back to wonder, beyond compute, when we started Basilica, and beyond compute now are very different. Anyone that is building anything for humans on the internet, you're not going to make it. So as we step forward, it was a very good time. So we're becoming one. So one thing, Basilica itself is becoming agent native architecture, but Basilica would also power agent native architecture. Now, this is not word salad. This is actually the vision we have for it. In the world where machine to machine communication is a very different boundaries from how you empower people. So think about agents. An agent wants to run, do things, have access to tools, have access to secure environments, and all those stuff. So one of the things we do is when we're launching this week is Basilica sandboxes, secure runtimes that anyone can spin up. Your agent has understanding of our SDK. So you have NPCs, yeah, but NPCs are just an abstraction for an SDK. We written our SDK in a way that agents can understand it. So in like 10 lines of code, you can spin up a sandbox, run some experiments, and deploy your things to a serverless platform. Hitting it on three different pillars: compute, serverless, sandboxes, or container runtimes. And we believe this will be a very powerful primitive, because compute networks are hard because they require verification. But once you get that compute layer, so that is what we're going to be rolling out in the next 2 to 3 weeks. The things that are ready today: rentals and serverless compute. We already have some subnets using it. We'll start to announce on Monday. I think we're onboarding like 10 to 15 subnets. Now, a mistake I made initially was that I was like, no, fuck Bittensor. We're just going to go outside Bittensor. But you forget that Bittensor is a massive consumer, one, and two, miners are a more forgiving consumer category. They will help you build your product. They'll help you reinforce it. So for the first month, this is how I see it. Go to market activities. We're talking to different, we will start really reaching out of Bittensor, but we want to build a really good product. Because if we go out there with something suboptimal, no one's going to use us again. We need to get the product to a place where it is untouchable. So what is working today? Serverless functions working. The SDK looks amazing. We have docs. What is going to be working this week? We're going to keep rolling out the new incentive mechanism. It's going to be very chaotic, but we already have customers using our platform. We need to keep them there because they're already using it. We need to first ensure that a new IM works. That'll take 1 to 2 weeks, and gradually start to preference rentals. We will already preference. It's up to the user to choose whether they want cheaper cloud compute or more expensive centralized compute. But for the past services that we need more reliability, we still would have community and miner supplied nodes, but initially there'll be mostly the neo cloud nodes, although we've aimed to phase that out very, very quickly. No one, again, it's also miners. Miners don't trust anyone. We want to turn this into a bedrock of experimentation where Basilica is running 100,000 sandboxes a day. And the crazy thing is very doable within Bittensor. There's a subnet using it now, and literally it's like, we're like, holy shit, how do we handle this load? Per unit cost, far less than GPU. But in the world that is being born, the world that is tomorrow, those kind of interactions would dominate everything. No one is going to be like, no one is going to be, people still use computers, but the amount of commerce that agents will drive, we hope to really capture that. Now, how are we different from E2B? Well, E2B is just a sandbox. How we different from Modal? Modal is more of serverless functions. They're more serverless deployments. They're not really sandboxes with very good UX. So for us, we capture that whole stream. We're Vast AI, we're Modal, we are E2B, we are Basilica. And we think having all of this in one source improves the surface area of what's possible. So yeah, pretty excited. We tried before, got humbled pretty badly, but you only lose when you stop. I think we've learned some very good lessons, and we're ready to usher in the Basilica of compute. So it's Lambda and Evan. We will work together to get the network back on. It's probably going to take the whole weekend working through things, but on Monday, we will start to launch with new partners and keep onboarding. It's very important to say, we're not optimizing for revenue. We want to give ourselves the enablement that will allow us to make hundreds of millions, even billions. And that comes from building an awesome product. Even when we do become revenue positive, it's not going to be a PvP thing, because that's one of the things that is killing us in the ecosystem. Is if I go to okay, why do I want to build Basilica? I want compute. People go, oh, go to Fish. I'm like, I don't trust Fish. He's just going to dump my tokens. Fish is not bad, but it's very rational. I want to move towards a model where we're helping build other subnets. I don't know, maybe we don't sell your tokens or we just sell the yield or something. It's a symbiotic relationship where it doesn't have to always be PvP between subnets. Let the subnets grow. Because again, I'll say this anyway, I'm very vested in Bittensor being the Bittensor I dreamed of. And we don't get there if we all commit suicide. You understand? If we all kill each other. So we already started to see subnet partnerships. But if I'm working with the subnets, you are helping me by building my products. I will help you grow. Let Basilica be that subnet that incubates other subnets or helps other subnets get incubated. The potential on this is massive. It's Vast AI. It's Modal raised at a $1 billion valuation, 80 million. I'm not I don't care about revenue. Let's just make this thing as big as it can be. Let us use this force we have to lift the whole of Bittensor. Because when we lift Bittensor, we empower every single subnet, every single bet on legacy, every single bet on innovation. To me, that's a lot sexier. Compute subnets are very different. You get to dream, but it's not Templar type of dreaming. You need money. We probably have to do some buybacks. We probably have to get revenue, but this also doesn't pay idle compute. It doesn't pay idle compute at all. So people will only get compute if it's rented. If we take compute for the IAS platform, I need to pay that for my pocket. So I need to go and I either need to be selling that compute or I'm literally paying it for my pocket. So I think it's fair, and let's see how this goes. And hopefully this sets us up for success. Cool. Okay. Thank you very much, guys. Have a lovely weekend. Bye.